Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome back our personal favorite Cubs fan. He's the director of morale and keeps our spirits up even in the toughest of days. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter at Dom_Frederic. Fred, I know it's challenging times to be as the Cubs diehards that we are, but how are we doing today, my man?
We're doing good. I mean, we left it all out there, and we're at where we're at right now. I mean, we gave it our all. I felt like I gave it my all. And,
you sure did.
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. So now we move on, and we're gonna have an interesting off season. But hey, man, this is how it goes. This is how it goes. When you put your chips all in, you're gonna be hurt sometimes. So this is how it is.
That's kind of what I thought. Like
we
were, we've had such a good run here that you kind of just feel like you almost keep pressing your luck every time you make a deal, or you decide to sign a certain free agent or not sign a certain free agent. That eventually, like it's like if you sit down at like a poker table, you can't stay lucky for forever. That eventually something is going to happen, and I feel like we just might have fallen into that little phase there.
Yeah, I just think again, this isn't to like take the Cubs off the hook and take again, there's a lot of people to blame, but I just think as a system, in terms of an industry, you build your farm system up and then you let it play out, and then you got to trade them away to stay competitive, and while that's going on, you lose picks in the draft and you lose international free agent money and you lose all these things that you have. You know what I mean? And you just keep exhausting all these resources that you have, and then something like this happens. And granted, they're spending the most money in baseball and all this stuff, but you can see how when you push your chips all in, you better. It's not always going to work out for you, and you better expect to get hurt sometimes. To make it. Not to be pessimistic about it, but that's just what's going to happen, man. When you embrace everything and go all in, you're going to get hurt sometimes.
Right.
That's kind of what happened this year.
Yeah, you can't keep burning the candle at both ends, I think, is the old analogy. Yeah. And I think when you say it like that, that definitely puts it into perspective that, like, you do try to stay competitive with all these moves, but in the same breath, people are like, oh, it's not that big a deal. We got rid of Gleyber Torres because it did get us Aroldis Chapman. Well, then if you make, 4 or 5 more of those deals, then you kind of setting yourself up for where we sit at now. But the big news, obviously, coming down yesterday, Joe Maddon will no longer be a part of the Cubs going forward. What was your immediate reaction to seeing that news that Joe was no longer going to be around?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised. We've talked about it on here before, doing your show in the past. I mean, it was bound to happen.
Yeah.
It was bound to happen. I think Theo said it perfectly that he was the perfect guy for that 5-year window, especially when we think about how different this organization was going into 2015. He was the perfect guy. He got the job done, and now there needs to be a new voice.
Right.
I mean, Theo said it perfectly. You need to have a little bit more accountability. We've talked about that all year. We need to maybe be a little bit more stern with things, even though Theo, named this season the year of reckoning, which it essentially is. It was.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I think you can say that Joe's the greatest manager in Cubs history, and you can also say it's probably time for him to move on and for the Cubs to go in a different direction. It doesn't mean I don't like Joe. Obviously, there was things I didn't like about Joe because I thought he made some decisions that didn't help the club. But in the grand scheme of things, he was the best manager in Cubs history, and you go on from there. And I think the Cubs are. I think they're in the right to let him go because it's what's best for the organization.
Who do you think is the top candidate for the job? I know I've heard David Ross. Who you think? Joe Girardi is also who I've heard.
Who does Dom want? Who do you want?
Who do you want?
Yeah, you know what? I just want a guy who's going to make moves that, this is going to sound so obvious, but like make moves that make sense and have backing to those decisions. I just thought there were way too many times this year that, and we've talked about it before, that it just didn't make sense why Albert Almora was, leading off for a week straight, and why, we were playing some of the guys that we did, and why Derek Holland was facing a righty with bases loaded against the Cardinals one game, and he gives up a grand slam. These decisions things that just don't make sense, and we've talked about it before. Like going into before the decisions were even made, like we cannot do these things, and they still happen. Not giving our best players the chance to play on a consistent basis enough. I think we saw what happened with Kyle Schwarber this year. He got his most at bats in his career. Guess what happened? It was his best year since his rookie year, and arguably his best year overall, considering what went down. He hit left a lot better.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We talked about it before that it's just there were some things that went on that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Joe didn't really want to answer why he did it. So I just want a guy who is going to hold players accountable.
For sure.
Albert Almora doesn't run out of the dish and tips his cap to the pitcher after he strikes him out with bases loaded in the eighth inning. He's not just going to walk down to first. He's not just going to walk down back to the dugout when it's a drop in strike and he has no idea what's going on. Things like that. Just got to hold players accountable, and I want a guy like that. It might be. I heard Beltran.
I heard that too. I wasn't expecting that one.
He's got the Astros pedigree, the Yankees pedigree. A lot of guys like him. He's bilingual, which is huge. I just want a guy that understands analytics, understands moves he's really making, and not just throwing things out there on the table and thinking it's going to stick and think it's funny in the process. So,
right.
That's what I'm going at, and we'll see what happens. I trust Theo, though.
For sure.
That's what it comes down to. I trust Theo to get it done.
Do you have any, do you care if it's a first-time manager? Would you prefer a veteran manager? Because me is that kind of split. It's shown recently in some of the teams that are sitting in the playoffs right now with managers who have never coached before, or coming straight out of, playing. I mean, Rocco Baldelli and a couple other guys most recently played in baseball. Do you have a preference if it's a guy who's had the experience, or does that matter to you?
No, I don't think, man. I mean, this is going to come off really naive, but I don't think managing's all that hard. I think it's a relationship business. It's a relationship position that you can, relate to the players and understand moves, and you can. I mean, managing the game isn't all that hard. Theo could just text down to whoever was sitting in the dugout and say, "Do this, do that, and the Cubs would be fine." But that's not how the game works. So it's simply just understanding moves and then being able to create relationships with the people and get the best out of players. That's what Theo said the whole time. Getting the best out of each individual guy, which is very basic and very obvious, but it doesn't take this big long resume that you have to be able to manage, that you had to manage for 30 years to get a job with Chicago Cubs. I don't think that's the reason. Would managing experience be good or be great for the next manager? Sure, but it doesn't mean a whole lot. I just want the best guy. I'm not specific with it, but I just want a guy who understands analytics, understands the modern game, and has access to every single move he makes.
Love it. Other than hiring a coach, do you think signing Castellanos is the number one priority for the Cubs going into the offseason?
I don't think it's the number one priority.
Bullpen, maybe.
I think it should be a priority. I don't think it's the number one priority. I think the number one priority overall, and Theo kind of touched on it a little bit. He kind of defended the pitching. They need to figure out the pitching situation. They need to figure out the bullpen. I understand the bullpen is super volatile when it comes to how it operates from year to year. But they need to figure that out. And you know what? The starting staff had a decent year, but not good enough. And you're going to see more regression out of John Lester, and you're losing Cole Hamels. So I think that's where I go first. And again, I don't want to be the guy that just says, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to sign Garrett Cole and it's going to be fine. That's my first move is addressing the pitching and addressing the bullpen specifically, because if we don't have a bullpen next year and we have the same one that we had this year, there's going to be huge issues.
Yeah, we sit in the same situation.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't hold any lead. It was like we at the end. I mean, let's think about it. The last 2 years, we have been relying on guys that have been DFA'd to pitch huge innings for us. I mean, tens of innings that have gone to guys who have been DFA'd, and we're relying on them to be like the setup guy, in big September games. It can't happen. So, and that goes with what I've always been talking about with player development and how the pitch lab was brought in 5 years late, and how the fact that Theo, I mean, I love the guy, but the fact that everyone's freaking out about the Cubs wanting to hire a director of hitting and director of pitching, like these things, like everyone's freaking out, like what these are like fake. No, these are like real positions that progressive organizations have hired. Like pay attention to this stuff. Like the Cubs are way behind this. Like this should have been done 3 years ago, and the fact that Theo's just bringing it up right now just can't happen. And that's why we've had no depth coming up for guys to fill in the bullpen. God bless the pitching lab to come through with Rowan Wick and the other Wick and Mills and Kyle Ryan, which is huge, but that needs to continue to happen, and there needs to be an infrastructure put in place to where we just can't be banking on DFA guys every single August and September to come down and close out games for us, because it's not going to end well. We need to have younger arms that throw strikes, and younger arms that aren't going to give up paint, and are going to keep the ball on the ground, and that's what it comes down to. So it comes down to pitching. That's what I'm going with as the most important thing this offseason.
I couldn't agree more. Now, I got something that kind of came up on our Twitter last week. Felix Hernandez is going to be a free agent. Do you want anything to do with Felix Hernandez?
Oh man, I would have to look in the numbers. I'd be totally wrong to give you an opinion right now. I would need to go with those numbers and check it out and look at the BOs and look at all that stuff. I don't know. He's old.
Yeah.
He's old. I don't like old. I'm just worried about again, like the Cubs, like the starters, Kyle Hendricks, super consistent. I think he was like at 4 wins with Fangraphs. Quintana, even though he had a terrible ending, had a pretty solid year. I mean, he's right there with kind of what he was with the White Sox. He had a bounce back year, which is huge. Electric. If he can put it on through a full season, he's a Cy Young candidate.
Absolutely.
And then you're like the 4 and 5 guys are. We got to figure it out, man. We got to figure it out, and I've already talked about the bullpen. Comes down to pitching. We got to pitch better. I will talk plenty about this offense, whatever question you throw at me next, but my first concern is with the pitching, and specifically the bullpen. It has to get better. The pitching infrastructure in this organization has to triple if we want to be where we want to be.
Most definitely.
After the year he just had, Schwarber's got to be back next year, right?
I mean, he has to. I don't know why you wouldn't. He's making $3.5 million. He'll probably make more, obviously, in arbitration. I think he's in arbitration. I think this is his first year of arbitration. I don't know. Whatever it is. I don't know. I mean, he made $3.5 million. He's a 2.6 win player, which isn't, an all-star level, but it's a solid big leaguer. I said it again. That's what you draft in the first round. To be solid,
exactly,
big league starters, and that's what he is. That's what he is. Not every guy's going to be an all-star in the first round. That's proven. If every first-rounder was an all-star, it would be a joke. And he's a solid starter. He is 20% better than big league average offensively this year. He hit 38 tanks. He even got unlucky with his expected weighted on-base average, which was higher than his weighted on-base average. I mean, dude, everything we talked about with him, he smokes balls. He barrels balls.
Yeah.
He barrels balls up in the air. Like, it all came and played out. It's why you watch 162 games. It's why you play these guys as much as you can. You get the most out of them for water to rise to its levels, and that's exactly what happened. And God bless the guy. He's my left fielder. He's been my left fielder since 2016. He's still my left fielder now, and I want him to be my left fielder in the future. Is he the best player ever? No. Is he a solid big leaguer on a winning team? absolutely, and I don't want that to change.
I love it. So is there anything that the Cubs could do with the whole Ian Happ, Albert Almora, and Addison Russell? Is there any moves that can be made is there anything they can get in return? What's the situation for the Cubs in this offseason with those three? Are they going to be back next year? I don't know right now.
Okay, let's start with Ian Happ. You tell me. Let's just be honest here. What do we think we could get for Ian Happ?
Oh,
like, are we thinking like a bullpen arm?
It's not going to be a good one, right?
Okay, yeah, I hear you. Well, so now let's backtrack even more. Everyone is burning down the bridge because Gio traded for Jorge Soler, and we're sitting Jorge Soler at 40 bombs this year, and a career year, but everyone forgets about, what was his name? What's the guy's name? The guy they traded for, the closer.
Oh, Wade Davis.
Wade Davis.
I'm getting all these players mixed up.
Yep.
Everyone forgets about Wade Davis being one of the best corners in Cubs history, coming after a World Series win to try to repeat. And okay, so like, are we going to look back at this 4 years from now and say, oh, look at Ian Happ tearing it up? We traded him after he had like a 1-4 F4 in like 155 plate appearances. We really traded him for a bullpen arm that we had for a couple years. I mean, the value of Ian Happ's value in baseball is much rather spent on the Cubs than being traded for like a bullpen arm. From the Cubs' perspective,
yeah.
Like, let's be honest. I mean, it's just the truth. It's just the truth. The Cubs aren't going to get a whole lot for him. He's proven that he can hit in the big leagues. It just comes down to, are you going to commit to see it out? And again, this is a problem with being in a big market. This is a problem with the expectations and with people spending all this money, and you bring in the marquee network. Like, are people really patient enough to see this through? And I understand you are in win now mode. I totally understand it. But when it comes down to it, it's why we talk about it all the time. Drafting and player development will always come above whatever you bring in from the outside. It's the reality of it. It's like you have a girlfriend, and you keep going through girlfriend after girlfriend after girlfriend after girlfriend, and other relationships that don't work out. Well, guess what? You're probably a jerk. Like it's your problem. It's your problem. So and it's either you're gonna fix it yourself, or you're just gonna keep going through the same exact thing over and over again. And as fans, I think we have to see it out. Like, and everyone's talking about this is gonna be the year where Cubs trade everybody. Like, okay, but like, what are you going to get in return?
Yeah, it's got to be
return
on investment. I mean, that's the only way you'd even consider it.
Look at what the Dolphins, the Marlins got for Yelich.
Yeah.
I mean, do we know any of those guys?
No.
I mean, seriously, or like, who else? All these players, all these organizations want to hold on to their guys, and the fact that people don't realize how aggressive Steele has been in trying to supplement this roster, trading away Eloy, trading away Cease, trading away Gleiber, and everyone says Steele held on to these players too long. It's like Steele has done everything he could for this team. Granted, did he make a few mistakes in these trades? Sure, but like, he's exhausted all the options. The first thing we said when I came on here is that, you know what, when you put all your chips in the middle of the table, you see what happens, and it's either going to work out or you're going to feel really hung at the end of it. And luckily enough, we still have time to see things out. And going back to the Ian Happ question, I would see things out with him because he's been a proven offensive player
for sure.
His first 3 years in the big leagues. Albert Almora, I mean, the guy just stinks. He shouldn't be in the show. I don't think you're going to get much for him. Addison Russell, nightmare. I don't even know if he's going to be tendered. If he is tendered, I don't know like the total logistics and the agreement with the guys who are in arbitration. I don't totally know how it works, but like, is he even going to get tendered if he is up for being tendered? I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly, but I don't even know. Good. I don't know. I mean, what are you going to get for him? It's going to be another Carl Edwards for Wick deal. Like, you know, it's going to be something like that. I mean, sure, you can get a guy back that isn't domestic abuser who can play shortstop, but it's not like you're getting a great player back for it. Like, okay, you'll get a guy who can play shortstop. Like, big deal. Alvaro Moore can play center field, but we don't want him playing out there.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. So going back to your original question, no, I don't think we're going to get that much back from tax them in the deal. So what I'm kind of getting at is that, yes, there might be moves, but I would just caution everyone, instead of just selling people off to the wolves, that do your homework and really look what you're giving up and getting in return, or potentially getting in return, before you make a move. And I trust Theo wholeheartedly, but he said it today. He said we have a lot of very good players on this team, and the sum of the parts did not match the whole.
Right.
If I'm saying that correctly, I don't even know, but it's just you get what I mean. It's it just didn't work out, and it's why we need a new voice, and it's why there's some minor changes you can make with the lineup, but like, this is what you hooked your wagon to. Like, this is it. And it's either you're gonna ride it and go all in and see things out with some of these guys, or you're gonna be disappointed and you might sell some guys off that you don't get a lot in return for.
For sure.
As we wrap this season up, what's Dom's Chicago Cubs 2019 Chicago Cubs final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I mean, obviously, disappointed.
Yeah.
I think. Listen, man. Like, I try to give people. Everything is has a optimistic tint to it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I say. But there are things that I'm honest about, and I feel like I've been as consistent as you can be with a team and a message, where I've said we have to play the best players every day, which we can do. We have to improve the pitching infrastructure, which Dio talked about today, and people were flipping out about a director of pitching and hitting, which is ridiculous. And, that we have to stick with some guys because of their peripheral stats are telling us that we really need to stick with them because they're going to be good players, i.e. Darvish, Schwarber, Happ, and so on. So, it's a learning experience. Theo said that today. I'm not trying to be a mouthpiece for everything he's saying, but I just really think that the Cubs, there's some things they can improve upon, but I don't know. I just wouldn't sell everything off. I just wouldn't say, like, we have to make moves just to make moves. I just don't believe that, especially with how teams are covering their young talent. I don't see it that way. I don't want to go on a tangent with it, but specifically with the Cubs, when people talk about the Cubs need more contact. Well, okay, if you want more contact, then play Jason Hayward 162 times a year, play Alvaro Moore 162 times a year, and play Nico Horner. Just bring him up entirely, and let him play 162 times a year. You'll make a lot of contact. But we know how that's probably going to go.
Yeah.
Nothing against Nico, but you know what I mean? It's like, we know how that's going to go. So these are much harder things to figure out. And again, if you can find a guy, I think the perfect fit for the Cubs right now is a guy who can be what they thought Jason Hayward would be, which is like 120 weighted runs created plus, who makes contact probably between 16 and 18% of the time, and can play good defense and probably play all three outfield positions. Jason Hayward proved that he really can't play center. I hope that's not the case long term. I hope he's not on the team long term. I've been saying that for 4 years. And it's just the reality of it. And if they can find a guy who can hit leadoff, make contact, and can be a 20% above league average hitter, and between a 3 and a 4-1 player, I think you got Victor Fowler back, and that's huge.
Right.
I hope they can find a guy like that. But it doesn't mean to sell everyone off just to find that one guy who can make contact.
For sure.
That's not what this is about. So, again, I trust Dio wholeheartedly. That goes back to what you said, Zach. Like, what's your take on 2019 season. He took a lot of lumps. The organization took a lot of lumps, but I am reiterating, I am standing next to that guy, and I am not leaving his side. I will not say that enough. Like, I trust him with this organization and everything he said. Again, they have to hire a solid, analytically driven director of hitting and director of pitching. Go sign Kyle Bodie right now. Like, that has to happen. I believe everything he's doing and what he will do even more. So that's my biggest takeaway. It's like learning experience. Things have to change, but things don't have to be blown up. But the infrastructure of this team and organization has to change to be looked at.
Couldn't agree more. Fred, thanks so much for coming on, man. You've had a long season. We've all had a long season. You go ahead and I think if anybody deserves a vacation right now, it's probably you.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but I mean, now with how this is, I'm not leaving, man.
Amen, brother.
I'll be here for the whole deal in the off season and figuring things out. You know, trying to give people a different perspective on things. But I appreciate it. Thank you. And make sure you guys DM me. I have to get shirts to you guys.
Ooh.
This is like the 100th time I've been on this. And, DM me so I can get some addresses and send you guys some stuff.
Right on, my man. Well, Fred, thanks so much, man. We appreciate it. Follow him at Dom_Frederic. He's the man. He's the best Cubs fan we know. So, again, last but not least, thank you so much, Fred. We appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, and we'll do it for whatever 102nd time next time we call.
Amen. Amen. Can't wait.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Yep. All right, Zach, cut it. All right. Thanks again, man. We appreciate you.